have incumbent Mr. Arturo Nelson. And candidate for the same district court, we have Ms. Veronica Farias. Judge Elia, you have 2 minutes.
Buenas noches. My name is Elia Cornejo Lopez, and I'm the presiding judge of the 4th District Court. I want to thank the Cheezmeh organization for this wonderful organization and for having so many people here. I've been to so many forums, and this is probably one of the most best attended that I've been to. I want to take the time to thank my husband, Leo Lopez, and my 2 beautiful children for being here with me, Lucy and Leo. And also my great staff, Sandra Betancourt, who's been with me for 15 years. She's like a sister to me. And Celia Lucky is also here with me. And Leah, where's Leah back there? Hey Leah, thank you for being here. I was born and raised in Brownsville, Texas, and I have lived here all of my life except when I went to the University of Texas undergrad and the University of Texas School of Law. You all will notice that my signs are burnt orange because I bleed burnt orange. Go Longhorns! I was born and raised over by Longoria Elementary Holy Family Church. That is where my ombligo comes from. You know, and we live 4 blocks away from the college, and so we didn't have AC. I was born in a blue-collar, working-class neighborhood, and so in the summers, we used to walk every day to the public library, which is now the Adolfo Oliveira Library. And we sat on those beanbags, and every year I won the award for reading the most books. Public service has been in my life all of my life. At Longoria Elementary, I was a patrol girl. I was the Girl Scout who sold the most cookies. And I got to go to Camp Lula Sam's. My father always instilled in us hard work. He says, we work hard and we, you know, respect and love first. The Lopez motto is, God first, family second, and all of you are part of my family. And I'm looking forward to continuing to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Our next candidate to provide an introduction is Rebecca Rubin.
I'm not used to speaking with a microphone. I don't normally need one. But my name is Rebecca Rubin. I have been a practicing attorney here for 14 years. All of my professional life, I started my career here as an attorney, as a prosecutor in the district attorney's office, and many of the people here have seen me throughout the years. I spent 7 years as a prosecutor, and I have just celebrated 7 years as a defense attorney. As a solo practitioner, I've handled family law cases, civil cases. My area is primarily criminal law. I have both prosecuted and defended. But more than that, in the last 14 years, I found for the first time as an adult my home. This is the longest I've lived in any one place. Since I left my mother and father's house at the age of 18, I've settled down here. I've made friends, lifelong friends, and the people here have taken me in like one of their own. It's for that reason, that feeling of community, that I felt like I owed something to the community that took me in. And it is that sense of service that makes me run for the 404 District Court. And I humbly ask for your consideration and your support in this election. Thank you.
Our next candidate, Judge Arturo Nelson.
Hi, I was raised here in Brownsville on Adams Street, right behind Cigar's Flower Shop. Where I grew up as a kid, raised by my mother and my grandmother. My father died when I was a year and a half years old. And I had to learn how to speak English in school. I didn't know it. It was kind of tough for little Juanito to have to get by that way. But it made me hard to give me some lessons in life. I went on to get my bachelor's at Texas A&I. While I was at A&I, I got married and had my first child. Then I went on to law school. I had my second child in law school. Both my wife and I have been working. Been married now 40 years to the same one. Oh, 41 years to the same one. I have 3 children. Thank God they're all doing fine. My oldest has a master's in education and technology. She's a librarian at Pettis Elementary. My son, my middle child, has a business here in Brownsville, International Dialectic Products. And my youngest daughter went to Harvard, graduated cum laude, and graduated from the University of Texas Law School. So after my kids finished college, only then did I run for judge. I ran for judge, I got elected, and the first project I had when I was appointed on was a task force of indigent defense. I helped set up the pretrial office and brought Cameron County into compliance with the law, the Texas Fair Defense Act. We were able to avoid a lot of exposure and litigation because at that time a case had come out called Rothbury versus Gillespie County, which said that if the county does not provide adequate counsel within a reasonable time, they are responsible or could be sued under 1983 civil rights law. So I brought that in, continued doing the indigent defense, started being very familiar with the cost of defending individuals, independents in particular. And I got $340,000 reimbursement from Austin to Cameron County for that process.
Thank you. Our next candidate for that same position is Ms. Veronica Farias.
Thank you, and I would like to thank the Cheezmeh Group for arranging all of this, and it has been, I think, a wonderful success. I also want to thank, I haven't heard anybody thank VFW for allowing us to have the event here, and I do want to state that VFW is a veteran of foreign wars, and that's one thing, if you look on my website, that I'm really big on, the veterans. And my father is here, he is a veteran, Korea, Vietnam, just Panama and everywhere, so I can thank all the veterans. And having spoken about my father being in the armed forces, it was I that was born in Wiesbaden, Germany. I wasn't born here locally, but yet it was American soil. And I was raised an Army brat. My father went into law enforcement and 20 years of immigration, and thereafter the U.S. Marshals, or department thereof. Law has been at all times in my blood. At 18 years old, I became a paralegal working for law office. And about the age of 27, I decided to go to law school. And I'm sorry, Judge Lopez, but no, I went to OU. So I am a student. But in any event, I did come right back home, began to practice law, and I've been practicing law 23 years now in the area of family, primarily, custody, and criminal defense. Those are the areas that I feel that I could serve the people best on a bench, having had such significant knowledge dealing with people, and I am a people person. When I went to school, I have a minor in criminal justice, but my major in psychology, and having done so well in that, I think they mix well to where I can, when I provide a service as an attorney, help for people. And I thus think on the bench, I can do the same and be just. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to reiterate the rules. Rule number 1, your response should be your response. Once another person is named, that person can provide a rebuttal of 30 seconds. Number 2, and I find this one to be of utmost importance, be professional and respectful to each other, and that again goes for the audience. No yelling and no screaming. So our first question will come from Mr. Kiko Rendon.
We understand that a big problem right now, of course, is a big problem with the courts is the docket. It's so backlogged. What would you recommend to expedite the docket, and what changes would you do in the court to make that happen? And also, how important to you is the judge's punctuality in the court?
Well, judges' punctuality is very important in the court. I'm sorry, this is Sand. It is a twofold question. Judges' punctuality is important, I'm sure, because there's attorneys, being a practicing attorney, before my office had slowed down, it's so important that you have to go to so many different courtrooms, and your clients are the ones that are waiting, spending time out of their office and not getting paid for getting the ones that are working. As far as backlog, any judge that is already on the bench, I'm sure that they are organized in a certain fashion to where they are processing their cases as rapidly as possible. But organization is one of the foremost. And of course, you have to look to see which is the oldest on the system, and again, which is of the more importance. Something criminal, I'm sure, that may have needed some attention, may need attention, be brought up before a jury, have some decision made on their cases. Although all cases are important, they really have to be determined in order of placement.
Thank you very much.
Well, let me take the second part first. Punctuality. You can't yell at attorneys for being late if you're late. So it's very important that you be there on time. I deal with it with a sense of humor. My sense of humor sometimes gets me into trouble. And I tell them, what do you want me to do? Sanction you, hold you in contempt, or do you want me to joke about it? It's easier to joke about it. With regards to the docket, while I've been on the bench, I've disposed of over 7,100 cases. I've been looking at the cases. But it's not just my court. I've also worked on trying to get, especially the County Court of Laws, in a situation where they can handle their cases faster. When I established the pretrial office, I brought down what's called a T1 line. A T1 line is an internet service line to allow defendants to be able to visit with their attorneys via video conferencing. But the purpose of that was also to establish a video conferencing link between the jail and the courtrooms. And we are doing that now both in the second floor and the third floor. Still at those.
Yes, I think punctuality is very important. I think that any practicing attorney can tell you on a given day you may have to make appearances in all 3 county courts and possibly 7 district courts if you're lucky enough to have that kind of work. So I thank all the judges for their patience with the practicing attorneys and understanding that we must be in more than one place at 9 o'clock or 8:30. As with regard to the backlog in the court system, yes, the courts are backlogged. Every system in the criminal justice system and the civil justice system is overworked everywhere. But I think that requiring the lawyers to come and move the cases is one asset. But again, a court can only rule on the cases that's put before them. So if we can work more closely with the law enforcement agencies that are making the arrests and turning in their cases and make it easier for them to present the evidence to the DA's office, we'll see some relief. Thank you very much.
I agree that punctuality is very important, and that's awesome that all 4 people agree to that. One of the reasons that criminal cases may get backlogged sometimes is the DPS lab in McAllen is overworked, and they have so many cases, and we want to make sure that everything is done carefully. You know, when I was in law school, my law professor said, it is worse to send an innocent person to prison than to let a guilty person free. And so we want to make sure that all of the testing is done, that all of the DNA is done, that the fingerprinting is done, that all of the lab work is done. It's very important because we want to make sure that we're not guilty of sending someone that's innocent to prison based on circumstantial evidence. So it's really important on the civil cases that the parties be ready. We're trying to do mediation they have a say as to what happens in their cases. Thank you.
Okay, this is probably my favorite question of the night. How do you propose to provide fair rulings should you, and maybe you already have, receive campaign contributions from attorneys who come before your courts?
Well, one of the things is the attorneys are the ones who are usually more interested in a judicial candidate. It's very hard to raise money from anybody who's not an attorney, even though I've been able to raise money from doctors and other people. It's not a problem because, first of all, you can't talk to any attorney about any pending case by himself. That's called ex parte. And the Code of Judicial Conduct very specifically prohibits that. So when you have a case pending in front of you, when you talk about it, you have to have both sides there. Secondly, transparency is very important. The law is the law, and whether you want to do it or not, that's what you have to follow. I know that, I'm pro-life, but I signed a judgment of death on a woman. Yeah, that was very hard for me. But I did what I had to do. So the law and the facts don't change. The law and the facts don't change, and the outcome that is required is pretty much controlled by the procedures, the pattern jury charges that go in, and what has to go up. Otherwise, it gets reversed.
Thank you.
I agree with Judge Nelson. As attorneys, we're bound by a code of ethics, and as is any sitting judge. And when you are presented with a case in which the attorneys may have made a contribution to your campaign, you set that aside. You set that aside just as you would any personal dislike for an attorney that's appearing before you. You set that aside just as you would any dislike for the subject matter that's of the case that's before you. And you rule in an impartial and unbiased manner, and as Judge Nelson said, you follow the law. If a judge is not able to do that according to ethics and according to the canons of ethics and the rules of professional conduct, then the whole judicial system needs to be rerouted. But so far, it's been working for us, and I would put aside any influence, or there wouldn't be any influence if somebody were to come before me. But again, I'm not a attorney. Thank you.
Well, it's even kind of sad that question is to be asked, but given some of the things that we've seen, it's an appropriate question to be asked. To me, I ask for campaign contributions, and the maximum that a judge can receive is $2,500. And of course, when there's people with the ability to write a check of that magnitude, you're very grateful. But it means more to me, and it reminds me of a parable in the Bible. When there's a lawyer who comes to me and says, Judge, my finances aren't very good, but I believe in you, I support you, and all I can afford to donate to your campaign is $100. I'll tell you that to me is just as valuable as a big check, because I know that that person is giving to me and donating to my campaign from their need. And it reminds me of the widow who put in the 2 coins because she was giving of her need and not of her excess. But when it comes to ruling, you're not ruling for the lawyer. You're ruling for the litigant. And so if a lawyer donated to me, but the facts of the case don't merit a resolution in their favor, then I would be hurting the litigants. Because really, the people before you are you, not the lawyer. It's not the lawyer who's going to go to jail if you convict. It's not the lawyer that's going to get to go home free of the allegation of crime. It's the litigant. And the people is what matters.
on family money and on a house that I sold. I asked for no contributions that first time 10 years ago. I will tell people, and I will make a very firm commitment, at this time, on this race, the only money that I'm going to be having contributions from our family, like the first time, my aunts, my uncles, my parents, and anything that I have saved. I have not taken contributions, and I will not want to take contributions from any attorneys or anybody that's involved in the legal field. Therefore, I think that there will be no issue as to any rulings that may be made in my court. I want to make sure that everything that I have campaigned on is strictly money from my family, no matter if it's $1,000 or $100, but it's our money.
Because of the geographic area that we're in, a lot of the cases that the court has have to do with drugs, you know, the border, a big percentage are. I'm doing away with one of my other questions, so I can give you 2 minutes on this one. My question to you is, what is your position on the debate on legalization of drugs and the effects it would have, or the effects that we have now on the cost of the drug laws that we have?
Well, if I may, when you say legalization of drugs, do you mean marijuana?
You can clarify any way you want, because you can make reference, like, you know, as California has done for medical purposes, compared to that.
Simply legalizing drugs to do away with a statistic is not going to solve the problem. Yes, you're taking a number of cases, thousands probably, out of the judicial system and eliminating them as a crime. But you're not alleviating the problems that come with the drugs. You have organized crime, you have prostitution, you have various other crimes that, as Judge Nelson and Judge Bernajo Lopez can tell you, a lot of the crimes that occur in Cameron County, the bottom line is drugs. And to simply legalize drugs is not going to prevent the break-ins. It's not going to prevent the driving while intoxicated when people are high. It's not going to prevent the collateral damage. And so I think that we cannot legalize drugs if we want to better our community, because we'll simply be allowing behavior that tends to lead to other crimes that do harm the community.
Well, I think we should study Amsterdam, Holland. You know, I had an opportunity to visit there after I graduated from college on a graduation trip. And it was very amazing to me to just walk down the street and see the signs that read, you know, pot $5, cocaine $10. And it was very interesting to see. But on the same street, it's like you had little windows of women for sale. What, and men. There was prostitution of men and women. So legalizing drugs on a personal basis, I'm not for it. I just think that if you think of alcohol being abused, if you've ever seen someone die in a street corner because someone was drunk and crashed into them, if someone's high on marijuana or high on cocaine and they get behind the wheel of a car and they kill your family, very few people would be for legalizing drugs for the abuse.
Very, very tough question. I will give you that. The legalization of drugs isn't going to happen. Should not happen. But we do have alcohol that is legal, but used in an illegal manner as well, and that's what causes many deaths. And it's very sad, usually watching CNN right before you go to sleep, to see what driving while intoxicated drivers, what they do to children and families. Same with drugs. It happens with drugs. They should stay illegal. Unfortunately, it causes, as we know more than others, because we live on the border, a tremendous amount of violence. Unfortunately, if anybody thinks about it, if they did make them legal, maybe all that violence would stop. But in still be some reason for them to fight, for them to have their wars. So, of course, the judge should continue to be legal. And of course, they should continue to be strict with the driving of people with alcoholism problems.
About 5-6 years ago, I found persuasive the argument that marijuana should be legal because that way you got it out of the hands of the criminals and you avoided all the problems that organized crime had with drugs. Then something happened that I found it less persuasive. I started the drug treatment court in Brownsville, which is the divorce court. And I started going to the treatment, visiting every week, and a whole session. I'm there year-round, every Tuesday, from 5 to about 7:30. And this is done after my regular court. And I've been dealing with people, and one thing that's become real apparent to me is that if marijuana was legal, then the other drug problems would be even greater. Because it's not that it leads to bigger things, but it lowers the inhibition. And when it lowers the inhibition, doing that line of coke or doing the other drugs becomes easier for you. It's a vicious cycle. The addictive behavior is such that if in fact you legalize it, you're going to make our drug problems worse.
Okay. District judges receive an above average salary considering the cost of living in the Rio Grande Valley. District judges are also known to receive and take lengthy breaks, vacations, etc. Do you believe, considering the budget constraints of all governmental entities, that this is justified? And if you believe that it is, tell us why.
You want me to comment on the salary we get or on the vacation we get? Well, when I took the bench, we already had a non-jury week. And when I asked about it, it was about the fact that most of our juries come from our public. And we have our district clerk, Gloria de Garza, who's been there for, I don't know, 30 years. Some of you might know her term a little better than I do. And she and the judges, administrative judges, set our court schedule, when we get vacation, when we have non-juries. And what they found is that when they send out jury summons, the month of July, we had most teachers and most people vacation during that month, and they didn't want to come to jury service. And therefore, you had panels that could not be full or filled. And therefore, the vacation schedule was set that way. I believe that, the 2 weeks that we get is comparable to what your teachers get and your administrators in other entities receive. I don't think that it's abusive, and I think that, like Judge Nelson said, we work 24 hours. I know in my case, I live 2 minutes from the PD.
Yes. Thank you, Judge.
I don't know any other county employees that get one entire month off during the month of July, 2 weeks at Christmas, and a week during spring break. I was a county employee and I had to earn my vacation days. You earn 0.7 vacation days for every week you worked. A county employee has to work at the county
other things that attended. Besides running my court, I also supervise administration of pretrial office. Besides running my court, I also do the drug divorce treatment court. Besides running my court, I've also got together with the county and persuaded them to start moving towards direct filing. Direct filing is a system that is going to expedite the criminal process, save the county millions of dollars, and bring criminals to justice faster. This is besides doing my court. Besides doing my court, we've got the search warrants that Judge Cornette Lopez referred to. So there's always a lot more work going on than just being in the courtroom. There's a lot more stuff that is needed to be done. The direct filing is something that I think is coming. It's going to save the county a lot of money.
Thank you.
Again, I believe that the question was twofold. And as I wrote it down, it did make mention of the salary for district judge. Well, I will let you know, I don't even know what that is. So I do know that if there are judges that take lengthy weeks, as you were saying, there may be some issues that people may comment upon. I wouldn't ever have a vacation without my children, so as long as they're in school, my children are here by the way, as long as they're in school, I'm working. But my children are dedicated, go to school during the summers, and are always active, one politically by the way, and I do believe, as Mr. Banks stated, that even though it's summertime, there has to be somebody available for the people on the bench on the month of July. And for Christmas, yes, they should celebrate Christmas with their families, but not close for an entire month of December. There are times when I, as an attorney, have just needed to find an attorney, and I think everybody else knows emergencies happen all throughout the year.
My question comes from the audience, and it is in reference to the situation that we have lived through as a community in these past couple of weeks, and also in visiting a lot of the different organizations that are out there. What community service are you involved in, or will you commit to in benefit of the youth of our community?
I spent, I want to say, roughly 4 to 5 years as a board of director for the Boys and Girls Club, the Lower Laguna Madre, that's located in Port Isabel. As you may know, Laguna Madre is one of the forest areas, that being Laguna Heights, Port Isabel. There were children who would come to the club during the summer, and the meal we provided for them was the only meal they got because they weren't in school. I believe that as a judge, you have a responsibility not only to rule fairly and impartially, but to get out and to participate in Constitution Week, to teach our children why the Constitution is so important, to teach them to understand and value those veterans that do go and fight, whether it's here or overseas, to protect our constitutional freedoms. I think it's important for a judge to participate in the school mentoring, to show children who may have aspirations that many lawyers come from humble beginnings, many doctors come from humble beginnings, and I think that is something that a judge is obligated to do. Thank you.
Well, as I told you earlier, I've been in community service since I was a little girl. I've been a Girl Scout since I was 6. I am a troop leader of Troop 1012. That's my daughter's troop. I was a founding member of the Brownsville Children's Museum. How many of you have been to the museum? If you look at the founding plaque, you'll see my name. Many of you know that I served you as the Brownsville Independent School District Board of Trustees, because education is first and foremost in my heart. My courtroom is open to the schools, and I've sent a letter to them from the time I was a county court law judge in 1998, telling them that they can bring their classrooms to my court. court. I allow them to come in and observe the courtroom, and then we have a question and answer. On the Take Your Daughter to Work Day, they also know that if there's a child that wants to be an attorney or a judge, they can call me. On that day, we take 5 kids from the community, and that offer is open to you as well.
I really like this question. I have 2 teenage daughters, as I stated earlier, and they're at the age right now, one's 16, one is 17, the other 19. And I'm very close with all of their friends. They call me mom. A lot of those children have become, I guess, at the age of experiment at times, or they have trouble with their parents. Whenever they have problems, when they go to my children with that, they know that my children know that they can bring their friends to talk to me. And I always want to help them. Some of them have thought about dropping out. Some of them have become pregnant, and they don't know what to do. They want help talking to their parents. A lot of children at the age of adolescence or in their teenage years sometimes think of dropping out. And Judge Cheezmeh, you're right. Education is foremost for kids. That has been instilled in my children's heads. Every one of their friends, it's been instilled. And I believe that if I do have a bench, a court, I somewhere would like to create something where I can have the children come in and speak to me about their problems.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to set my body up. Let me see, when my children were small, I started the Cub Scout troop at Christ the King Church. I was involved in 4-H with my children. But I've been married for 41 years, so whatever my wife gets involved in, I help with the fundraisers of that as well. My wife serves on the Friendship of Women board. My wife serves on the Moody Clinic board, which means that I'm there helping on those things. Now, I serve on the Herbie's Music Foundation board. And besides that, I've also served on the Cameron County, Wilson County Community Act project. So I think our life has been about service. And we're going to continue doing that, not because you ask me that it's required, but los hechos son los que enseñan todo.
I get confused if we got all of them. Okay. It's a long night, folks. Okay, each candidate will have 1 minute to provide a closing. We're doing 1 or 2 this time. 1 minute. 1 minute for your closing.
I am grassroots. I am running a poor man's campaign. I am doing it because I've had law instilled in my blood since I was born. Education in my blood since I was born. I passed that on to my children, and I have been in the area of law since I was 18. I guess practicing it as a paralegal. I now want to serve as a judge so that I can give back to what my father, my mother, and all my other family members have given to me, which is integrity, honesty, and fairness. And that's what I want to give back to the people.
You know, all of you have friends at the courthouse. And that courthouse knows how people go, what people were, what the reputations are. You can ask about me. You know, I'm pretty well known in terms of being there a lot, working hard, and doing the best I can to do what I can for Cameron County. You know, I went up to Austin, got over $340,000 reimbursement for capital murder expenses. Didn't have to do that. It hadn't been done before in Cameron County, but I did it. I've continued to do everything I can, what's best for Cameron County and the people. And I think that I've got a good record of service, and I would like to continue. If you honor me, I will continue to be your judge.
A lot of you may not have known of me very well before this, but
ago, you elected me to the VISD, and then 3 years later, you elected me to the County Court of Law, and I served you in that capacity for 8 years. 4 years ago, you elected me to the 404th District Court because you knew, as I knew, that you needed me there. And I'm asking you to, humbly ask you to give me 4 more years to the 404th District Court. I love to serve you. I love my community. I live 2 minutes from Brownsville PD. Melissa's my neighbor. We have our own wisteria lane there. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I will tell you that Brownsville PD knocks on my door. They call me and they say, Judge, you're 2 minutes from us. We need a warrant. There's been a murder. There's been a rape. We need DNA. And I say, come on over, guys. You know? And at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, they come and they knock because they have my cell number and they have my phone number.
That concludes our forum. Before you begin to get up and head out the door, we have some thank yous. We would like to thank DJ Johnny Rodriguez and his sound system. I think he's done an excellent job. Audi Productions, recording the forum for us to be there. And of course, the VFW, Commander Lucio, thank you so much.
One final word. We have recorded the forum today. We will also record the forum tomorrow, which will have the sheriffs and the district attorneys. We will be setting them up on a webpage and on anyone else that wants to share tonight's forum. It is to inform not only the individuals that are here, but also to inform any individual that is interested or wants to know what the candidate is bringing to the table.